For a decade, my world had revolved around Clara. My love for her was a well-known fact, a defining feature of my existence that everyone, including myself, assumed was as permanent as the sun. People were certain I couldn't function without her, but as I stared at the latest collection of intimate photographs featuring her with another man, I was struck by the profound and unnerving absence of any feeling at all. There was no surge of anger, no familiar sting of betrayal. There was only a quiet, hollow emptiness. I didn't feel the need to demand an explanation for why she was so closely entwined with a stranger, nor did the old impulse to run to my parents, shattered and seeking comfort, even cross my mind. It was she, ironically, who approached me with a cautious, almost tentative air, ready to spin a narrative. "It's not what it looks like with him," she began, her voice a careful murmur. "If you're doubtful, I can have him come over. You can speak to him yourself." I listened without expression, my mind already somewhere else entirely. Instead of engaging, I reached into my briefcase and placed the divorce papers I'd had drawn up months ago on the table between us. "Just sign this," I said, my voice steady and devoid of emotion. "It's time we both were free." Her face transformed into a mask of pure disbelief, her knuckles bleaching white as her fingers clenched the edge of the documents. "I never wanted a divorce," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "But I do, Clara," I replied, meeting her shocked gaze without flinching. "I don't love you anymore." "Leo, there are reporters camped out by the main entrance," my assistant Sam said, his face etched with worry. He watched me, his expression anxious, as if he expected me to shatter into a million pieces at any moment. "Should I arrange for a diversion after work so you and your driver can use the underground garage to leave?" I lowered the financial report I was reviewing and looked up at him, genuinely perplexed for a moment. "Reporters? Why?" Sam swallowed, the sound audible in the quiet office. "It's Miss Clara, sir. She's all over the news again." The name, once the center of my universe, took a second to register. "The internet is buzzing," he continued, hesitating before delivering the final blow. "They're saying that last night she was seen with a popular male streamer." His voice trailed off, his gaze fixed on my face, searching for a reaction. I waved off his concern and picked up my phone. A quick scan of the top social media trends confirmed his report. Rumors about Clara were the #1 story. I tapped on a random headline, and the first image that loaded was of Clara. A wine glass held delicately in one hand, her other arm draped in a way that was far from platonic around the shoulders of a well-built young man. From the accompanying articles, I learned the man's name was Alex, an online personality who had built a significant following on some streaming platform. Apparently, Clara was his most generous supporter, having showered him with millions of dollars in virtual gifts over the preceding 6 months. As I scrolled through the photos, a strange sense of detachment washed over me. I nodded to myself and typed a comment under one of the posts. "Not bad. Her taste has improved. This boyfriend is certainly better looking than the last few." Sam stared at me, his jaw practically on the floor. "Leo, you're not angry? I'm angry for you." I looked up from my phone. "Why should I be angry?" I asked, the question directed more at myself than at him. It was a valid question. Why wasn't I furious? Looking at the image of Clara with another man, I felt as though I was observing the life of a complete stranger. She was my wife, and for years, everyone knew I was utterly consumed by her. In the past, whenever a scandal of this nature erupted, I would have been wrecked, a mess of tears and frantic energy, completely devastated by her actions. But now, seeing her with this new man, I felt absolutely nothing. There wasn't even a faint ripple of jealousy or pain. It was like seeing a face that was once intimately familiar, but now held no meaning. That was the moment the realization crystallized in my mind. The person who had once been the most important individual in my life had finally, irrevocably, become a nobody to me. My love for her was gone. The sensation was bizarre, as if a tremendously heavy chain that had been wrapped around my shoulders for years had suddenly crumbled into dust. I felt light, almost euphoric. Sam's voice pulled me from my reverie. "Leo, should I have the security team clear out those paparazzi?" I considered it for a moment. "No, let them stay," I said, a new sense of resolve hardening my voice. "You can run, but you can't hide forever. I'm not the one who's done anything wrong, so why should I be the one sneaking around and avoiding them?" I slipped on my sunglasses, picked up my briefcase, and made my way downstairs. As expected, a veritable swarm of reporters was waiting at the company's entrance. The moment they spotted me, they surged forward like a tidal wave. "Leo, what are your thoughts on Miss Clara and the streamer Alex?" one shouted. "What's your impression of him?" another called out. "Did your wife spend the night with him yesterday?" "We've heard Miss Clara has gifted him tens of millions of dollars. Do you have any comment on that?" The questions came in a rapid-fire barrage. I paused, adjusted my sunglasses, and calmly addressed each one in turn. "That's their personal business. I have no opinion," I stated clearly. "Alex seems like a handsome young man. As for whether they spent the night together, I really wouldn't know. I wasn't there. Our finances are managed separately. How she chooses to spend her money is her affair. I have no objections." Throughout the impromptu press conference, I maintained a faint, composed smile, my demeanor completely unshaken. This was not the hysterical, furious breakdown they had been hoping for. It certainly wasn't the first time I'd been cornered by reporters over one of Clara's scandals. But in every previous instance, I had been a complete and utter mess. After each of her affairs, my haggard, grief-stricken face would be plastered across the front pages the following day, making me a laughingstock for the entire city. Perhaps my calm reaction was so unexpected, so out of character, that the paparazzi assumed I was putting on a brave face. One of them, bolder than the rest, reached out and yanked the sunglasses from my face as a dozen cameras flashed, blinding me for a second. But the face they captured on film had no dark circles from sleepless nights, no red-rimmed eyes from crying. "The flash is a bit bright," I said, smiling politely as I held out my hand. "Could I have my sunglasses back, please?" The reporter, looking resentful, shoved them back into my hand. My picture still ended up trending online, but the narrative was different this time. In the photos, I was well-dressed, composed, and appeared completely unaffected by Clara's infidelity. The media began to speculate, wondering if we were already divorced or if I had simply stopped loving her a long time ago. Online forums were buzzing with commentary. "Have you guys noticed? For the past year, Leo has been completely focused on his career. He probably stopped caring ages ago." Another user chimed in. "True, you barely see them together anymore. He used to be attached to her at the hip, 24/7. Is Leo finally ditching that train wreck? Thank goodness. He's finally over being a lovesick puppy." Seeing the outpouring of supportive comments, I quietly went through and gave each of them a like. I returned to my work as if nothing had happened. I had only taken over the JM Corporation from my father the previous year, and my days were consumed by meetings, strategic planning, and operational oversight. The entire situation with Clara and Alex was quickly relegated to the back of my mind. I made no effort to contact Clara, nor did I make any moves behind the scenes. She, however, couldn't maintain her composure. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she came to my office to pick me up from work. I had just concluded a lengthy meeting with a client. As I walked out of the conference room, Sam informed me that Clara was waiting for me in the reception area. I glanced over and saw her rise to her feet as our eyes met. I quickly looked away, offered the client a polite smile, and walked them to the elevator. Clara hurried to catch up with me. "Leo, have you been busy?" she asked, her tone attempting casualness. I gave a short nod, then turned to my subordinate. "Chloe, let's go over that new proposal again in my office." Only after giving the instruction did I turn my attention back to Clara. "Yes, a bit. Did you need something?" She had been studying my face intently since I emerged from the meeting, as if she were trying to recognize the man standing before her. "No, it's just, we haven't seen each other in a while. I was wondering if you wanted to get dinner tonight. I booked a table at your favorite restaurant." I thought for a moment. "Sure, but you'll have to wait. I have another meeting to attend." With that, I walked back into the conference room with my team. By the time we finally finished, it was already past 7 in the evening. Clara was still waiting in the reception area. When she saw me, she offered a teasing smile. "The great Leo is a hard man to get a hold of these days. It's a real challenge just to schedule a simple dinner." I offered a very corporate, impersonal apology. "Sorry, things at the office have been pretty hectic lately. Let's go." The drive to the restaurant was largely silent. She drove, and I leaned back against the headrest, closing my eyes to rest. I was genuinely exhausted. "Leo, don't you think we've grown distant lately?" she asked, breaking the quiet. "You don't talk to me anymore. Look at our text messages. How long has it been since you messaged me first?" There was a clear note of complaint in her voice. I couldn't help but feel a surge of bitter irony. For years, I had been the one desperately sharing every little detail of my day with her, only to be met with her chilling indifference or a dismissive, "What's the big deal? Can you stop being so boring?" On our message thread, the last exchange was from 3 months prior. I didn't even bother to open my eyes. "I've just been really tired lately. I'm sorry." "Leo," Clara sighed, a sound heavy with frustration, "I feel like you're intentionally pushing me away." A dry, humorless laugh almost escaped my lips. "Well, you haven't exactly been reaching out to me either, have you?" She seemed taken aback by my response. For our entire relationship, I had been the one to initiate contact. She only ever messaged me when it was urgent or absolutely necessary. She had taken my constant effort for granted, which made sense, given that she was accustomed to being the center of everyone's universe. "You used to have so much to say to me," she muttered, a hint of dissatisfaction in her tone. I offered no reply. Seeing my continued silence, she finally shifted to the real reason for her visit. "That stuff in the news recently. It's not true. Leo, are you mad at me?" "No, you're overthinking it." "I knew you were still mad," she insisted. "I was just watching his stream, and I thought it was funny, so I sent a few gifts. Then he mentioned he was having an offline event, and I just happened to be in the area, so—" "You really don't have to explain any of this to me," I said, cutting her off as I rubbed my temples, my patience wearing thin. I truly had no interest in hearing her excuses or justifications. The undisguised coldness on my face seemed to startle Clara. She stared at me for a long moment, her mouth opening as if to say something more, but then she fell silent. The rest of the dinner was a tasteless affair. As we were preparing to leave, Clara asked if I wanted to go back to the villa in the hills with her. The villa was our designated marital home, situated on the outskirts of the city. Her parents had gifted it to us, and I had poured an immense amount of energy and personal attention into its renovation. After we were married, however, we barely spent a few nights there. We only ever used it for holidays or to entertain guests. Following the wedding, Clara had continued to live in her own luxury condominium downtown, citing a need for her own space. Living in that enormous empty villa by myself felt too desolate, so I eventually moved back into my own apartment. Now, out of the blue, She was suggesting we return to our marital home together. Without even thinking, I refused. I have meetings with several key suppliers early tomorrow morning. I should just go back to my place. Clara's face fell, and she looked at me with a flicker of suspicion, but I no longer cared enough to reassure her. Are you busy? If you are, you can go ahead. I'll just have my driver come and pick me up. Leo, can we please just talk? She pleaded. Talk about what? I feel like you're being really negative right now, she said. Now that I was treating her with the same coldness she had shown me for years, she was the one who couldn't seem to handle it. I feigned ignorance, putting on a confused expression. I don't feel that way at all. On the contrary, I feel incredibly motivated. My dad was just praising my performance yesterday. I'm talking about your attitude toward me, she clarified, her voice strained. I'm sorry if that thing with Alex caused a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. I smiled back at her, a cool, distant smile. There's no need, Clara. I really don't care. She looked a little frantic then, assuming I was still holding a grudge. If you don't believe me, I can call him over right now. Nothing happened between us, I swear. Just then, my phone rang. It was my driver, informing me he was waiting outside. After hanging up, I grabbed my briefcase to leave, but she caught my wrist. Leo, you've changed. She was right. I had changed. I don't know precisely when it happened, but I had stopped allowing my life to revolve around her, stopped obsessing over every little thing she said or did. But wasn't this exactly what she had always wanted? I used to put her first in everything, and she had repeatedly told me to stop being so clingy and to focus on my own life. Now that I had finally done it, she still wasn't satisfied. But I no longer cared what she thought. I carefully pried her fingers from my wrist, one by one. People change, Clara, I do, and so do you. As she stared at me in shock, I walked away without a single backward glance. In the days that followed, Clara began to try harder, checking in on me daily, but her efforts only filled me with a deep sense of repulsion. To me, her current thoughtfulness felt cheap, a laughable and transparent attempt to regain control. I suddenly realized that even being in the same room with her felt awkward and strained. We had nothing left to talk about, and I no longer possessed any desire to share the details of my life with her. It was then that I began to seriously evaluate the state of our relationship. Perhaps it was truly time for a divorce. The thought of how our families would react, however, made me hesitate. The person who finally solidified my decision to divorce Clara was Alex. I had never met the man, but because Clara had started to distance herself from him after our dinner, he redirected his resentment toward me. He went on his stream, his eyes filled with crocodile tears, and spun a tale about how his pure and beautiful relationship with his #1 fan was being cruelly torn apart by a powerful, jealous third party. The man's morals were completely twisted, but he had a legion of mindless fans who hung on his every word. The comment section of his video was flooded with people attacking me. Some even spouted absolute nonsense like, "The one who isn't loved is the real homewrecker." Sam furiously showed me the video. I watched Alex's melodramatic performance and laughed out of sheer anger. I immediately forwarded the video to Clara. "What is up with your little boyfriend? Can you please keep me out of your personal drama? If you want to divorce me and marry him, I will sign the papers right now." Clara called me immediately, insisting that she had merely stumbled upon his stream, found him amusing, and had treated him as nothing more than a friend. She admitted to sending a few gifts, but claimed she was ignoring him now. I told her to make sure he never bothered me again, and she readily agreed. Apparently, Clara and Alex had a massive argument. She later informed me that the situation had been handled. I didn't ask for details, nor did I care to know them. But I never expected Alex to go on stream again, this time falsely accusing me of hiring people to threaten him and his family. He claimed I was using my wealth and power to bully a self-made man from a humble background. He painted himself as a poor, sympathetic victim being oppressed by a rich, tyrannical bully, and it was a narrative that resonated with a lot of people. Alex was a major influencer with millions of followers. His words were highly inflammatory. His stream and the accompanying videos were viewed and liked by tens of millions, and a massive wave of negative public opinion crashed down upon the JM Corporation. A few people, pretending to be disgruntled customers, showed up at our corporate headquarters with banners, protesting supposed problems with our products. All sorts of baseless accusations were hurled at us. Even my parents, who were traveling abroad at the time, got wind of the situation and called to ask me what was going on. My grandfather had founded this company. Now that it was in my hands, I understood intimately the generations of hard work that had gone into building it. I didn't care if Alex wanted to latch on to Clara, but if he dared to try and mess with our company, I would not tolerate it. I immediately contacted the police, sent our product lines to the National Quality Control Bureau for independent testing, and publicly released the official reports confirming their high quality and safety standards. At the same time, I had our legal team issue a cease and desist letter and file a lawsuit against Alex personally for slander and defamation. The streaming platform, facing legal pressure, promptly banned his channel. I then took the initiative and messaged Clara. "Are you free? Let's meet up this afternoon." She replied almost instantly. "Yes, I am. What do you want to eat? I'll make a reservation. I'll pick you up tonight." When we met, her face was beaming. "Leo, what made you suddenly want to have dinner with me?" she asked as we sat down. "I actually have something I need to discuss with you," I said calmly. During dinner, I casually brought up Alex. "So, how are things going with you and that influencer boyfriend of yours?" "Leo, he's not my boyfriend," she insisted. "Really? Yesterday I received some pictures of you two out at a club. I thought you were planning to marry him." Alex had somehow managed to get my social media handle and, using a burner account, had sent me a collection of photos of him and Clara getting cozy, including one he had taken while she was asleep. I passed my phone across the table to Clara. "These photos aren't fake, are they?" Clara's expression shifted several times as she looked at the pictures. She carefully began to explain. "I went to a bar with some girlfriends a few nights ago. I don't know how he showed up there. I'd had a bit too much to drink and he was just helping me. I just watched her quietly, letting her spin her tale. I couldn't care less what their actual relationship was. I had made up my mind. I realized that as long as I remained tied to her, I would constantly be dragged down by her drama and instability. A leopard can't change its spots. She would cheat again and again, bringing me an endless supply of trouble. My entire focus was on the company now. I didn't want to be distracted by this kind of mess anymore. I really didn't contact him. He just showed up. We didn't do anything. If you don't believe me, I can call him over. You can even ask Wendy, she was there." I let her finish, then took out the divorce agreement I had prepared and handed it to her once more. "Let's get a divorce. As for our assets, our finances have always been separate. What's in your name is yours, and what's in mine is mine. The rest of the details are outlined in the contract. You should take a look." Clara stared at me, her face a canvas of utter disbelief. She gripped the papers so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Leo, are you serious?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes, sign it, and we'll both be free." "Why? I know I was a jerk before, but I never once thought about divorcing you." "Well, I want to, Clara. I don't love you anymore." She let out a sharp, self-deprecating laugh, threw the agreement onto the floor, and grabbed my shoulders, her grip surprisingly strong. "Why? You've loved me for 10 years. How can you just wake up one day and say you don't love me anymore? You're right, I said, my voice flat. I did love you for 10 years. And in all that time, how did you treat me? No one waits around forever, Clara. 10 years is long enough. It's time for it to end. She looked guilty then, her eyes pleading. Can we start over, please? Didn't you always say you wanted to see the Great Rift Valley? And the Serengeti? I'll book the tickets right now. She looked at me with wide, hopeful eyes. Going to Africa had been a lifelong dream of mine, a trip we had planned to take for our honeymoon. But thanks to her, that honeymoon never happened. I've already been to Africa, I told her. She looked stunned. When? Who did you go with? Why didn't I know? 3 years ago, right after we got married, I said softly. I went alone. Her shoulders slumped as if all the air had been forcefully let out of her. Her face went pale, and she managed a bitter, broken smile. I'm sorry. That phrase, once so powerful, now felt so cheap and meaningless. The time she hurt me the most was the year we were married. I was 24, and despite our union being, for all intents and purposes, an arranged marriage between two powerful families, I was incredibly happy. Our families knew each other well. Our social standing was perfectly matched. The wedding was an extravagant affair, and I adored the house her parents had gifted us. Everything seemed so perfect. I never could have imagined that the day after our wedding, I would become the laughingstock of the entire city. The very night our wedding of the century concluded, someone posted an intimate video featuring Clara online. It included several clips of them in bed. At the end of the video, the man tearfully claimed they had a child together, born via a secret surrogacy arrangement. The baby was already 3 months old, he claimed, and he didn't know what to do, so he was appealing to the internet for advice. He also posted the child's birth certificate and a copy of the surrogacy agreement. The moment I saw that video, my blood ran cold. I never thought that the happiness I had fought so hard to protect would leave me with nothing but a foundation of lies and betrayal. The man showed up at our door the next day with a legion of paparazzi in tow, demanding that Clara take responsibility. He gave her 2 options: divorce me and marry him, or pay him $100 million in child support. But Clara wasn't interested in either choice. She simply tossed the problem to me. Leo, what do you think we should do? She asked, as if discussing a minor inconvenience. I stared at her in shock, my voice trembling. Don't tell me you expect me to help you raise your lover's child? The man sneered, seeing Clara's shameless refusal to take responsibility. She said marrying you was just something she had to do, he said, clearly trying to provoke me, to get me to back out of the marriage on my own. She doesn't love you. She couldn't marry her dream guy, so she just picked someone her parents would approve of. Then who is her dream guy? I asked, assuming he was just making things up to get what he wanted. But then he said a name I never expected. Daniel. His birthday is October 14th. That night we were together. She stayed up until midnight just to send someone a happy birthday message. The way she talked about him, her eyes were different. So full of affection, like a schoolgirl with her first crush. That was when I first learned that the wild, carefree Clara could be so devoted to someone. Leo, you really love her, don't you? The man continued, his tone a mix of pity and contempt. But she doesn't love you at all. She doesn't deserve you. I'm different. I only love her money. His words sent me plunging into a freezing abyss. Daniel. Of course I knew Daniel. He was a few years older than us, and we used to play together as children. In my memory, he was always smiling, a straight-A student, the role model our parents constantly told us to look up to. Daniel's family had moved their business up north, and the entire family had gone with them. I hadn't seen him since. I'd heard through the grapevine that he had gone abroad, settled down, and had been married for years. Looking at the man standing in front of me, I saw a faint, unsettling familiarity. His eyes, they looked a lot like Daniel's. Clara had been the subject of rumors before, but there was never any concrete proof, and she always managed to cut ties cleanly, so I had always assumed they were just misunderstandings. I started thinking back to her past rumored flings, and I suddenly realized they all had something in common. They all resembled Daniel in some way. It was like waking from a long, terrible dream. I was shaking with rage. I grabbed Clara by the collar of her dress. "So it's always been Daniel? Why? What's wrong with me?" She had never stayed up until midnight to wish me a happy birthday. In fact, she couldn't even remember the date of my birthday. It turned out she did have a heart. It was just already full of someone else, with no room left for me. Faced with the crushing truth, I started laughing and crying at the same time, a hysterical sound that echoed in the grand foyer. Her eyes were cold as she pried my hands off her and smoothed the wrinkles on her clothes. "Can you stop being so dramatic? This has nothing to do with Daniel. With all these reporters here, have you thought about how much trouble you're causing for him?" "Fine, I get it. I won't mention him again," I spat, my voice dripping with venom. "You'd be heartbroken if his precious reputation got even slightly tarnished, wouldn't you?" I looked at her, my heart shattering into a million pieces. I slapped her hard across the face, then stumbled out to the garage, got in a car, and fled. The paparazzi's high-definition cameras captured my pathetic, desperate escape. Within 2 hours, I was a trending topic online. I hadn't done anything wrong, yet I was being paraded around like a clown for the entire world to mock. I wanted to get away, to escape to some country where no one knew my name. The honeymoon tickets to Africa had been booked long ago and were non-refundable. I grabbed my luggage and headed to the airport alone. I was gone for half a year, other than regularly checking in with my parents to let them know I was alive. My phone was turned off. I saw the magnificent sights of Africa by myself. On the vast plains of the Serengeti, witnessing the raw, unforgiving brutality of nature made my own heartbreak seem much smaller, almost insignificant. When I finally came back, Clara apologized to me and wrote a formal letter of promise in front of both our parents. I chose to forgive her. My father had asked me if I wanted a divorce, if I wanted to cut all ties with her completely. I hesitated. Yes, I was pathetic. I had loved her for so many years, and the thought of becoming complete strangers was just too painful to bear. But even after forgiving her, I wasn't happy. The fact that she had almost had another man's child was a thorn permanently lodged in my side. The slightest movement made it feel like I was bleeding internally. Seeing me so listless and lost, my dad told me to start coming to work with him. He said he was going to gradually hand over the company to me. Our company was 50 years old, founded by my grandfather. 2 generations of tireless hard work had built it into the powerhouse it was today. I remember my dad taking me on a factory inspection tour. He told me, "We have over 200,000 people working in our factories. You have to work hard, and you have to be careful with every single step you take. This factory isn't just about our family, it's about the livelihoods of 200,000 families. If it fails due to mismanagement on your part, that would be a terrible sin." My father clapped me on the shoulder. "From now on, this responsibility will gradually become yours. I hope you can shift all of your focus onto the company." I started going to work with him every day, visiting the factories, meeting clients, and learning the intricate web of our distribution network. The busy schedule did a lot to pull me out of my depressive slump. Clara was still photographed with other men a few more times after that. I made a scene a couple of times, but I never again felt that same soul-crushing, world-ending pain. Maybe I had become numb. Or maybe I knew, deep down, that the root of the problem wasn't the men she was with, because they all carried a shadow of Daniel. And it wasn't Daniel's fault, either. He probably had no idea that he was the object of someone's lifelong, unrequited love. Back in the restaurant, Clara picked up the divorce agreement from the floor and smoothed it out in front of me. Leo, we've been together for so many years. I don't want it to end like this. I'm not signing this. I had expected her to refuse, but my mind was made up. If I had to, I would just spend the time and money to sue for divorce. As we were locked in a standoff, the door to our private room burst open and Alex rushed in. "Clara, I knew you'd be here." Clara's face darkened. "Are you following me?" "I just happened to have plans to meet a friend here," Alex said, his voice lacking conviction as he shot a nervous glance in my direction. Clara just frowned, annoyed and confused. "Actually, it's good you're both here," I said, leaning back in my chair. "The three of us need to clear the air." I sat back down and motioned for them to take a seat. I was the one who had asked Alex to come. After getting banned from the streaming platform, he had tried to stream using other accounts, but nothing had worked. Facial recognition technology is quite advanced these days. The platform system locked onto his profile the moment he appeared on camera, and the stream would be shut down. He was accustomed to a lavish lifestyle fueled by large donations from fans like Clara. With his income stream completely cut off, he had to find another way to support himself. On top of that, our lawsuit for his slanderous comments was heading to court soon. He was facing the possibility of jail time and desperately needed a lifeline. Of all the people he knew, Clara was his best bet. He wasn't about to let her go easily. He had been messaging me on social media every day, trying to provoke me into a divorce. I, for one, couldn't wait to be rid of Clara. If he could somehow convince her to sign the papers, I would owe him one. "Leo, there's really nothing between us," Clara said quickly, trying to distance herself from Alex. I threw my hands up in a gesture of surrender and looked at Alex with mock sympathy. "See, Miss Clara doesn't seem to know you that well." "Did you call me here just to humiliate me?" Alex snapped at me. "I know you're a rich kid. I can't compete with you, but everyone knows your marriage is just for show. You've been sleeping in separate beds for ages. If it weren't for your family's influence, do you really think Clara would even give you the time of day?" I sighed internally. If he wanted to win her over, he should have been charming her, not just attacking me. I pulled a stack of photos from my bag and tossed them on the table in front of him. "Take a look. These are all the other guys your dear Clara has had flings with. You're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last. Notice any similarities in how they look?" Alex picked up the photos, his expression puzzled. "You're all just stand-ins," I explained. "Stand-ins for her first love, the one she could never have." "Leo, stop talking nonsense. I don't have a first love. That's all in the past," Clara protested, her voice rising. I ignored her and kept my eyes fixed on Alex. "The one who is refusing to sign the divorce papers is your dear Clara, not me." I pushed the divorce agreement toward Clara again. "Sign it, Miss Clara. Then you and your little boy toy can fly off into the sunset together." Clara snatched the papers from the table and tore them into shreds. "Stop this nonsense. This is between us. Why are you bringing an outsider in to watch the show?" "You see," I said, turning to Alex. "She's the one who won't let go." "Clara, is what he's saying true?" Alex bit his lip, looking at her with a pitiful, wounded expression. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and patted Alex on the shoulder as I passed him. "She's all yours." With that, I walked out of the private room, carefully closing the door behind me. I could hear Clara's furious shout from inside. "Leo, what is the meaning of this?" Later that night, Alex sent me a video. The footage was explicit. He was gloating. "See? Clara still loves me as much as ever." I smirked and saved the video to my phone. For the next few days, Clara didn't contact me. Instead, I received a call from my father-in-law. "Leo, when are you free? It's been a while since I've seen you and Clara. It's my birthday next week. You two should come over for a family dinner." He had watched me grow up, and had always treated me like a son. I couldn't bring myself to refuse, so I agreed to attend. On the day of his birthday party, all of his old friends and colleagues were there. He pulled me to his side and bragged about my recent business accomplishments to everyone he met. I knew several of the other uncles as well. We moved in similar social circles, and they chatted with me warmly. The atmosphere was pleasant and cordial. A little while later, Clara arrived and stood quietly by my side. One of the uncles joked with her. "Clara, why aren't you over there hanging out with the other ladies?" She smiled, glanced at me, and replied, "Leo's here." "Look at that. You two are just like newlyweds, thick as thieves. We only borrowed your husband for a few minutes, and you're already here to claim him back." "It's true. Clara has really matured," another one added. "Women just mature later, don't they? They only figure out what they truly want when they're a bit older. A few years ago, Clara was always driving people crazy. Look at her now, so composed and steady." The uncles went on and on, praising Clara's newfound maturity. My father-in-law just smiled. "It's all thanks to Leo's patience." I was never happy with anything that girl did, but when she started dating Leo, I supported it 100%. "Clara, you better take good care of your husband from now on. No more making him suffer. Look at all the crap you put him through. Only Leo would tolerate you." Their light-hearted banter made me incredibly uncomfortable, but I couldn't say anything. I just had to smile and play along. "I know, Dad. I'm working on it," Clara said softly. She came over and took my hand. I tried to pull away, but she gave me a pleading look. "Leo, haven't you always wanted to meet Mr. Harrison? He's here today. I'll take you to him." "Mr. Harrison?" "You used to complain about never getting a chance to talk shop with him," she reminded me. Then I remembered. The Mr. Harrison she was talking about was Ken Harrison, an industry titan I deeply respected. I had wanted to meet him for a long time, but had never had the opportunity. I had mentioned it to Clara in passing once. "Mr. Harrison worked with my mother back in the day," she explained, seeing my confusion. "He went abroad for a while, and when he came back, he settled up north, but they've stayed in touch over the years." I recalled a time, back when I was losing my mind over a critical problem with our company's product line, I had told Clara how much I wished I could consult with an expert like Mr. Harrison. She knew him then, but she never offered to help. Now that our company's problems were solved, the need wasn't as urgent. Still, always eager to learn from the best, I went with Clara to meet him. Clara stayed by my side the entire time, playing the part of the perfect, doting wife. Even Mr. Harrison praised her for being more driven and focused than before. As we were leaving, Clara looked at me hopefully. "It's getting late. The traffic back to the city will be terrible. Why don't we just stay at the villa in the hills tonight?" The villa was only a 20-minute drive from her parents' house. "Stay where? It's not like you don't have a room here," her father chimed in. "You two haven't been back to see me in ages. Leo can keep me company tonight." I felt incredibly awkward. If I stayed, I would have to share a room with Clara, but faced with my father-in-law's earnest, hopeful gaze, I couldn't bring myself to disappoint him. Just then, my phone rang. "Leo, bad news. There's an emergency at the office. We need you to come in personally to handle it." I put the phone on speaker, and Sam's frantic voice sounded jarringly out of place in the warm, friendly atmosphere of the party. I let out a silent sigh of relief, hung up, and looked at them apologetically. "I'm so sorry. Something important came up at work. It must be urgent if they're still in the office this late. I should go." "I'll drive you," Clara said, pulling out her car keys and walking ahead of me. I followed her out the door, where my driver was already waiting by the curb. "My driver's here. You've had a long day. You should stay here and spend some time with your parents." "Leo," Clara said, her expression crestfallen. She let out a long sigh. Your driver got here very fast. You just don't want to be alone with me, do you? I stayed silent. Is there anything I can do to make you come back to me? She asked, her voice small. No. Can we please just start over? No. With that, I got into the car without a second glance. It wasn't that I hadn't given her chances. Over the years, I had given her countless chances. I'm never signing those papers, never! Her voice came from behind me. I scoffed and told the driver to go. The next day, I gathered my thoughts and called my father-in-law to inform him that I was divorcing Clara. All I heard on the other end of the line was a long, weary sigh. After a prolonged silence, he asked, Leo, I watched you grow up. You're like a son to me. After all these years together, are you sure you want to throw it all away? Besides, she knows she was wrong. She's changing. Can't you just give her one more chance? I thought for a moment. All I could say was, I'm sorry. My father-in-law was a good man, but he was still her father. My own dad would only tell me to get a divorce. Hers would always tell me to forgive. The pain from 3 years ago was still fresh. That thorn was still lodged deep in my heart. Just because I didn't look at it every day didn't mean it wasn't there. Clara started acting like a repentant child, coming to my office every day to bring me 3 home-cooked meals. I told her to stop many times, but she completely ignored me. I was busy with work and usually just ordered takeout, so she had her housekeeper prepare meals for me and would drive them over herself. Sometimes she would even cook. Whenever I ate something she had made, she would always ask, How is it? Do you like it? If you do, I'll make it for you more often. She was acting just like I used to. I, who had never cooked a day in my life, had once joyfully prepared 3 meals a day for her, learning how to make her favorite soups and stir-fries. But there was no going back. I brought up the divorce again. Her eyes welled up with tears, her voice raw with emotion. Why won't you forgive me this time? The truth is, I'm not a forgiving person. I'm petty, and I hold grudges. The only reason I forgave her before was because I loved her. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her, so I swallowed my pride. Now that the love was gone, all the pent-up resentment from years of betrayal came flooding out. Everything about her annoyed me. Seeing my silence, she laughed bitterly. I suddenly feel like I don't know you anymore. Are you even the same Leo I knew? The truth is, you never knew me at all. Clara still refused to sign. I went back to the villa in the hills and packed up all of my things. I just wanted to be done with her as soon as possible. Before I left, I looked around the large, empty house, a pang of sadness echoing in my chest. When her mother had bought us the house, she told us to decorate it however we wanted. I had studied design in college, so I designed the entire house myself. I hired a construction company and spent every day on site with the workers, agonizing over every single detail. It took over a year to get the house exactly how I wanted it. While I was decorating, I dreamed of a future life with Clara, of the family we would have, of our happy days spent together within these walls. But on our very first day living here, her affair hit me like a ton of bricks, and this place, once a symbol of my hopes, became a monument to my heartbreak. I handed the divorce case over to my lawyers and took my executive team to Europe for an extended business trip. By the time I returned, 6 months had passed. Thanks to Clara's refusal to cooperate, the divorce still wasn't finalized. As for Alex, he and his most vocal fans were found guilty of slandering me and the JM Corporation. Alex was sentenced to a year in prison. The fans who had caused a scene at our company headquarters all received sentences of 6 months to a year as well. The day I got back, Clara somehow found out my flight details and came to the airport to meet me, holding a large bouquet of flowers. She looked worn out, the past 6 months having clearly taken a toll on her. The moment she saw me, she rushed over, her face lighting up with a genuine, unbridled joy. "You're finally back! Leo, I've missed you so much!" Anyone who didn't know us would have thought we were a deeply loving couple reunited after a long separation. She reached out to hug me, but I subtly stepped aside. "It has been a while." Her face fell, a hint of sadness clouding her eyes. "Honey, I missed you." "Miss Clara, you shouldn't use that title so freely. If I remember correctly, the second hearing for our divorce case is coming up soon, isn't it?" "Are you that desperate to get rid of me?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Leo, who are you talking to? Who is this? Aren't you going to introduce us?" A pleasant, confident female voice came from behind me. A graceful, impeccably dressed woman was standing by my side. I laughed. "My soon-to-be ex-wife, Clara." The woman nodded politely at Clara. "Evelyn Reed." Evelyn Reed's reputation preceded her. She was the only daughter of Henry Reed, the richest man in the city, and the head of the formidable Reed Group. She was a prodigy, outperforming her peers in every conceivable way. She was accepted into a prestigious foreign university at the age of 14, and after earning her PhD, she founded her own highly successful investment firm. In recent years, every project she invested in yielded returns of several hundredfold, making her a star in the cutthroat world of investment. I had met her by chance on my trip. When I mentioned our company's industry, she happened to be interested and said she wanted to visit our factories for a tour. Clara's face changed drastically. She pointed a trembling finger at Evelyn and demanded, "Are you divorcing me for her?" I scoffed. "Clara, Miss Reed and I are just business partners, and let's get something straight. I didn't even know her when I filed for divorce." Evelyn frowned slightly, looking Clara up and down with a dismissive air. "Leo, this is your ex-wife. She has a mountain of her own scandals, but has the nerve to spread baseless rumors about us. How pathetic." Clara's face was ashen, her fists clenched so tight her knuckles were white. Her eyes looked like they were about to shoot fire. "Leo, over here!" I looked toward the voice and saw Sam waving excitedly from the curb. "Let's go! The company car is here." We turned and walked away, leaving Clara standing there, seething with a mixture of hatred and despair. "Do you want my help with your divorce?" Evelyn asked, seeing my serious expression and thinking I was upset. "Thanks, but I've got it covered." I politely declined her offer. "Why? Weren't you just complaining about how difficult she's being? The Reed family has some business dealings with her family. I could apply some pressure on a corporate level. Clara would probably back down then." "Our families have known each other for generations. I don't want it to get too ugly. Besides, this is a matter between our two families. If an outsider gets involved, people will talk." Seeing Evelyn's frown, I smiled. "Don't worry. I have a way to make her let go." The day after I got back, my family threw a welcome home dinner for me. Clara came with her father. In front of everyone, she knelt before me. "Leo, I was wrong. I didn't know what I wanted before, but I do now. You're the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Please, just give me one more chance." My father-in-law's eyes were red as he came over and took my hand. "Leo, just give her one more chance, please." I chuckled softly, leaned in close to her, and whispered something in her ear. She hesitated for only a moment, then finally stood up, walked over to the table where the new divorce papers lay waiting, and signed them without another word. Since we didn't have many shared assets and I couldn't care less about her family's money, our divorce was finalized quickly. We were finally, officially, strangers. We still saw each other occasionally at business functions, but we would just exchange a cool, distant nod. Evelyn and I quickly reached a cooperation agreement. On the day of the ribbon-cutting ceremony for our new joint project, dozens of media outlets came to cover the event. Our new production line used the most advanced technology in the field, and numerous industry experts praised and endorsed it. I was on the front page again, but this time it wasn't for a personal scandal. It was as a prominent entrepreneur giving an interview to the press about innovation and the future of the industry. After the ceremony, Evelyn asked if I wanted to grab a drink to celebrate. I readily agreed. At the entrance to the bar, we ran into Clara. She was drinking alone, her hair a mess, and she had none of her usual confident, glamorous swagger. Evelyn smirked. "I hear things haven't been going so well for her family's company lately." "Oh?" I was surprised. I hadn't been following their situation at all. "The W Corporation has serious cash flow problems. Half of their factories have been mortgaged to the banks," Evelyn explained with a smile. "No wonder none of her fair-weather friends are around anymore. By the way, how did you finally get her to willingly sign the divorce papers?" Evelyn had always been curious about that. I just shook my head and smiled. "It was nothing, really. I just told her that her first love, Daniel, had also recently gotten a divorce. And I told her that if she didn't sign the papers, I was going to send him that explicit video of her and the little streamer." "That's it?" I nodded. Clara would never want the idealized version of herself that existed in her mind to be shattered in front of Daniel. She would never want him to see a video like that. Whether she ever confessed her feelings to him in the end, I have no idea, nor do I care to find out. Clara was my first love too. Daniel was far away in another country, like the moon in the night sky, bright, beautiful, and forever out of reach in Clara's heart. And my own decade-long obsession with Clara, after 10 years of pain and heartache, had finally been laid to rest. People can be haunted their whole lives by what they couldn't have when they were young. But eventually something happens that finally sets them free. I raised my glass to Evelyn and smiled. "To a successful partnership."